General, we've heard stories from 3 women who've endured horrific treatment compounded by systemic failure. What do you say to them and women like them?
I say to them and to all people where the Australian Defence Force has not protected or looked after them, I am really sorry. I'm sorry we weren't there when you needed us.
You know some of these victims?
I've served for 37 years, and in my service, some of my friends and colleagues have been impacted by their service. So yes, I know some of these victims.
How does that change or alter, inspire your desire to respond to this?
So the Royal Commission actually laid bare over 3 years where Defence had failings. I, like my colleagues who I'm serving with now, look at those recommendations and listen to those stories, and they took great courage for people to come forward during that Royal Commission to tell those stories. And some of those people I actually supported in coming forward. Because if people don't tell their stories, we can't take action, we can't support them, and we can't actually make it better for other people to come and serve in the Australian Defence Force. So I have stayed because I am committed to actually working extraordinarily hard with my colleagues to make a difference for Australians to serve in the Australian Defence Force. It is personal for me.
It's personal for you, it affects colleagues, friends. What's it like at a personal level to hear their stories when they say, General or Natasha, I was raped by another officer?
I am angry about that. I am sad. I am incredibly disappointed about what has happened to them. I don't want that to happen for anyone. I don't want to serve, and neither do the people I work with and serve with, or I know, want to actually serve in the Australian Defence Force with people who are perpetrators of sexual violence.
You can see that the ADF system sometimes has enabled sexual assault, harassment, rape, or protected the perpetrator, not the victim.
I know the Australian Defence Force has failed quite a few people, and I am incredibly sorry that that has happened, but I am so committed, as are my colleagues, to making it right, to listen to the stories, to actually learn and make a difference.
You say you'll make a difference, but so many previous inquiries and efforts at reform have failed. Why will it be any different for you?
So the Royal Commission, I think you don't have Royal Commissions very often in Australia. They are once in a generational lifetime to make a difference. And so for me, the 3 years laying bare everything that had happened, has happened, it is their opportunity. And I know because at the start of the Royal Commission, where we're listening to those stories, people's experiences, and we didn't wait to the final report. We started to make changes as we were going when we were hearing the horrific stories of what had happened to people, and some of them my friends, like I said. And so we are committed to those changes. But what is different this time around is the Royal Commission made recommendations about an independent oversight body. The Royal Commission made recommendations that not just for defence, but it's a whole of government requirement to make changes, to make it better for people to serve their country. So I have more confidence this time because it's a more holistic view of changes that are required with oversight mechanisms and report requirements for defence to show the difference that we are making.
How will you rebuild the trust of those victims who've been let down not just by the perpetrators, but by the system that enabled them?
So trust, we know, trust is hard fought and really easily lost. And I know a lot of people and veterans have lost trust in defence. So for me, it's about you have to watch what we do, make sure that you know what we're doing, ask us those questions, tell us those stories so that we can take action. We are creating an environment where, as a consequence of the Royal Commission, where people may not have felt safe in reporting and they couldn't get then the support that they needed in doing that, we have created some mechanisms now for support as a priority. But if people are uncomfortable for whatever reason or not safe to report, there will be a central reporting area that they can come to make those reports, where we will see them at the highest level to take action.
Why have people been too scared to report?
A lot of people do make reports and some people don't make reports. So I think there are many reasons why, but what we're doing now is actually creating the mechanism. So if you are comfortable in reporting, and many people are, they can use their chain of command to do so. But we are creating a central complaints unit where people can make reports if they choose to use that mechanism as well.
You say many people are prepared to make reports. The underreporting rate is 60%, so more people are not happy to make reports. Isn't that the case?
So we know that if you do surveys, you get a different indication than what you're seeing in a report. So we deal with the reports that we get, but what I will say is I want people to make reports. I want people to feel safe to make reports. I can't help people if they don't make reports.
Why would people make reports if the cost of doing so is a career destroyed or a perpetrator protected?
So the CDF has directed that no one who makes a report should have a career implication. And so now I am responsible for the career management system, so I am looking at that to make sure that the people who are making reports are not impacted as a consequence of being brave and making a report to help us make a difference.
Are people, and women in particular, safe right now in your Defence Force?
Look, I want all people to be safe in our Australian Defence Force. I want them to trust the person next to them because that's who they serve with and that's who, if it comes down to it, they will be fighting beside. And so you have to have that trust in one another. I want them all to feel safe, and them helping us make a change is really critical.
I appreciate that's your aspiration.
Yeah.
Are women safe right now?
I think women have the option and are safe, but there are times when we fail them. There are over 12,000 women in the Australian Defence Force, and we have failed a large number of them. But we also know that not everyone is a perpetrator of violence, and what we want to do is actually take action against perpetrators of sexual violence and support victims, because that is really important, against how they want to be supported.
Do you know today how many people convicted of sexual offences are serving in the military?
I have the numbers of people who are serving in the military who have been convicted of different types of offences, yes. And I also know that we have removed at least over 20 people this year alone who've been convicted of sexual offences.
Are there others still serving, do you think?
There are others who are serving who are going through the military justice system, yes.
Why were people with sexual offence convictions allowed to remain in the military?
The military justice system in defence is actually a discipline system. People often confuse that with a criminal system. It is not a criminal system. The principles of the military justice system are based on the criminal system. That's why we want people to use the criminal system, because there's more jurisdictional powers that they have to take actions against perpetrators of sexual violence. We will support people in doing that.
Why are there people, or why were people convicted of sexual offences permitted to remain in the military, posing a risk, no doubt, to others?
So I can't explain to you in previous historical examples why that was happening, but I can tell you...
It's a gross failure though, isn't it?
I can tell you we are taking action now against people who are perpetrating sexual violence, and where we can take those lawful decisions to do so, we will be taking those lawful decisions.
What is the human cost of not getting this response right?
The human cost of not getting it right, we've seen it. The victims' stories show that cost, and that is just awful. It in fact impacts families, impacts generations. It costs people, ultimately has cost people their lives. And that's what the Royal Commission told us, and that's why it is so critical that we make these changes. That is the human cost. There is a cost to Australia for this, in that it impacts the capability for the Australian Defence Force. We need to trust one another for Australia when Australians ask us to deploy in their national interest, and we need to trust one another to do that, and we cannot do that when we have perpetrators of sexual violence in our midst, and that's why it is so critical to take action to prevent them from serving.
Hello, I'm Nick McKenzie. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.